If this doe is freshened and you want to put in her kid, it would be the kid's sire ID, or the sire of that kid that brought that doe into lactation this year. So you would put in his identification number and registration number.
Okay.
Okay, now if you're using the Add Your Registration paperwork, there's a real easy way to fill out your new goats entering the herd or your identity correction section. This is just a doe that Langston had at one time. She's no longer here. But what I wanted to show you is, at the bottom of this page, DHIA numbers, date of birth, the animal's number, which A for breed for Alpine, the sire's registration number is right here, which has 000 in front of it. Instead of using the A, you would use the 00 and 0. The dam's registration number, which instead of using an AA for the American Alpine, you would use the first three numbers 180. If you follow this procedure, you won't miss any of this information. Since we were talking about the DMS 213, this is an extension of the 213 where we were talking about herd identity, or does entering the herd, or identity correction section. You only had 5 spaces on the previous form. There's additional forms to fill in those animals if there's more than 5 animals in each herd. Okay, back on the herd form DMS 213, there's a section in here for transferring of does. Okay? What I highly recommend is that when you transfer a doe in, ask for the cow page from another DRPC on that doe that you're purchasing. That way all her records can be transferred into our system. But you would design the index number for that doe in your herd based on alphabetical and numerical order of the name and then the index number. You would put in her registration number, the breed of her, the barn name, her date of birth, and this is where it helps to have the old cow page. You would write in the old herd code that she is transferring from and the old index number. That way, if she's a 5-year-old that you've purchased and she's milked 4 lactations, then those 4 lactations, we can find that in the system and bring it right into ours, and that whole lactation history will follow that doe. One of the last things you need to do on this paperwork is sign it. As a tester, we need a signature right in this area that you had done this test and have signed it and dated it. Okay, the next set of paperwork that needs to be filled out as a tester is the supervisor's barn sheet, form DMS 201. The herd code will appear in the upper left-hand corner. The last date of test will be here also. The herd's name, we're using test herd as the example for now. A section for the supervisor to sign the paperwork after it's been completed. The association number, the supervisor number. If this is a new test and you're a new supervisor, you would just write in new, and like I said before, Texas will assign you the number. And the date of test is the day that you complete the test of that herd for that month. The first column is called string. A herd can be divided into different strings, and strings can consist of different breeds within that herd, where an Oberhausley would be 1, an Alpine would be maybe 2, or the differences in production, which could be a milking doe versus a dry doe versus a yearling doe. If you want to keep track of your herds, you can do that, and this section allows you to do so, 1 through however many strings you need in your herd. The next section in here is old status. This will come back pre-printed after the first set of this paperwork has been filled out. If you are signing a herd up for the first time on test, you would not fill in this old status section. You may want to fill in, though, the registration number of this animal underneath. New status is the changes that you would make on that month's test. For instance, say you had a doe that had just freshened and you needed to write in there that she'd freshened. You would come down here and look in your status code section. For the code, marked dry, in milk, transferred from the doling herd, or freshened. If she had just freshened, you would write in an F in the code section and write in the date, the month and the day. It's extremely important to know when that lactation of that doe had started. So the better the information, the better results that you get back from your paperwork. If the doe was dried off, we need a dry off date. Our new program does not allow us to process anything without the dry off dates. If the doe was in a doling herd and you're just transferring her into your adult herd, you would just write in a T and the day that she freshened or transferred. Now you could write in an F and a T and still write in the same day. If a doe was transferred into the herd in milk, meaning that she was already milking when you brought her into the herd, you could put in an I in the code section and the day she come into the herd. If you don't have a freshening date on that doe, the freshening date will be estimated as the time that she was transferred into the herd. We have an index and barn name. When you're first putting a herd on test, you may want to write in the index and then the barn name of the doe. Like I said, you have 9 letters to work with for a barn name. And the next section here is milk weights. Milk weights are extremely important in this time. If you're not doing a verification test, you would just use the first and the second section here in the columns where it says first and second milkings. If a doe milks 4.2 pounds, then you would write a 4 on the pound side and a 2 in the tenth side. If it's a verification test, I highly recommend that you put in the milk out weights in that first section. The only reason I'm recommending it is, therefore there can be no question raised as to what that doe was doing the night before. Then the official verification test would start on the second milking and finish with the third milking. If a doe was removed from the herd, you could put it into the new status section in here with these removal codes down here. The removal codes are sold, died, unknown, and then reasons why they were removed from the herd. If an animal has died, you need to tell us what day that she died. Basically, what day she left the herd. And if she was sold, the same situation. So you write in the date in which she was sold and the reason why. CAR is condition affecting record. There is times when the milk pail gets spilled, or the doe's in heat that day, or she's just not acting right, and there's a way that you can mark the record. And this is the opportunity right here. Those are abnormal, E for estimated, F for supplemented, supervisor estimated fat, H for in heat, which you know affects milk production. I was that you injected her with something or gave her a shot. L, meaning that you asked the lab to estimate the fat for them. M for milked 3 times a day, or X, no 305-day record. But that gives you a reason to write something in here. Again, we ask for body weights in the next column. Like I said, we're trying to develop a feed program, and if we had body weights on all the breeds at an average, we could develop a feed program more readily for that. New reproductive status. This is a section that has not been utilized as much on some of the other paperwork from the other dairy record processing centers, but this allows you to identify what's going on in your herd on the reproduction side of it. There are Repro Codes over here in the bottom right hand corner. A for abort, B for bred, H for in heat, O for open, P for pregnant, R for reproductively called, F freshened, V virgin. If a doe is freshened or you want to consider her open, you would write in the code here and the month and the day that she was coded that. If she was bred or you want to keep track of her heats, you would code that in there as an H and the month and the day in which that happened. Our program allows for us to keep track of that.